today we're gonna continue Taisho to Aresu, see how where the story goes, gonna have some fun reading, and I hope everyone can enjoy it with me. And yeah, that's about that. Let's have some fun. Mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Taisho Arisu. Okay, let's continue from where we left off. Kirika. I think I was just waking up the next day. Light shone against my eyelid, and I stirred from my slumber. Mm. I sat up and stretched. Alright, I'd moved in with Cinderella last night. I opened the window and let some fresh air into the room. The golden rays of the morning sun felt warm against my skin. Alright, let's do this! And so began my life at the cafe. As you know, my name is Alice, and starting today, I'll be joining the team. Thank you for having me! That morning, I donned my best cheer as we all met up downstairs. I got the sense that there was still some lingering awkwardness from last night, but I decided to ignore it.
よろしく、アリスさん。僕は厨房を担当しています。ちなみに、白雪兄さんはホール担当なんですけど。
君が入ったのなら、俺はホールから外れる。
I mean, I feel like you.
だそうです。代わりにあなたがホールを担当してもらうことになりますが。
Sure, no problem. But if it gets busy, I'd appreciate if you could still help me out. I shot a hopeful look at Shirayuki. Thanks. Apparently that's a yes.
両者納得がいったようですね。とりあえず難しいことはありません。お客さんが来たら席に案内して注文を取って用意ができたら持っていく。これだけです。
That's pretty much what I was expecting. Are there any special rules? Do I have to greet each customer in a certain way?
特にないので自由でお願いします。いらっしゃいませ旦那様でもご主人様でも構いません。ああ、ですが一つだけ注意点が。
What's that?
僕がお菓子を作っている間は絶対に厨房を覗かないでください。
Under any circumstances?
絶対に。
Why? I tilted my head in confusion, but Gretel showed at me an intimidating smile that screamed, "Mind your own business, B." Okay, I promise not to go into the kitchen. I held my hands up like he had me at gunpoint.
ありがとうございます。では早速僕は厨房にこもらせていただきますので、後のことはすべて白雪兄さんとあなたに一任します。
With a wave, he turned on his heels and began to walk away. Wait, how do I communicate the customer's order to you if I can't go into the kitchen?
大丈夫ですよ。どうせ客なんて一人も来やしません。
He said as though it were the most obvious thing in the world. What? What? No customers in the middle of the shopping districts? Is that even possible? Okay, but what if we do get a customer?
万が一に客が来たとしても問題ありません。うちのメニューには軽食の一つも載っていませんから。
なぜそうなった？
彼の言っていることは本当だよ。
Snow White chimed in.
うちにあるのは飲み物と本日のおすすめデザートの2種類です。お茶だけならそこで十分用意できるでしょ？
Okay, but
デザートは僕が適当に用意します。出来上がったらあなたを呼びますので、それまでは注文されたとしても断っておいてください。
in other words, the entire menu was essentially tea. One word sprang to my mind. Insane. Okay, just to be clear, this is a cafe, right?
はい。ですからその名の通りお茶を飲む場を提供しています。
You know, cafe means coffee in French, right? Are you sure that's all you need?
あなたが言いたいことはわかります。ですがこの店は兄の趣味で経営しているもので、メニューも僕たちが用意できるものしか用意していません。
What about this siphon coffee maker? I pointed at the appliance that, as far as I could tell, was only there for decoration.
メニューにコーヒーはありませんが、使いたければどうぞ。
So we can use it, but it's not on the menu.
ええ。ですから誰も頼みません。
You've got a really nice oven in the kitchen too.
使いたければどうぞ。ただし、僕が厨房を使用していない時に限り。
Right.
ではそういうことで、何かあったら白雪兄さんにでも聞いてください。
Wait, who's going to clean the... But before I could finish my question, Gurete disappeared back into the kitchen. I looked around at the misty dining area, then back at Snow White. I guess we'll have to handle this mess ourselves. Phew! Finished, finally! I thrust my desk cloth into the air in celebration. We digging out the overflowing trash, wiped down all the dusty shelves, and polished the floor with a fresh coat of wax. Now the cafe had been restored to its former glory. Hooray! Now all that's left is the kitchen. I hadn't seen Gretero since the morning. I didn't know what he was up to, but I promised him I wouldn't go in there, so there was nothing else I could really do. No sense in pushing my luck. I spun on my heel and accidentally slammed my elbow against the shelf. Gah! Something fell, and I hastily caught it with both hands. That was a close one. I had inadvertently knocked a little glass trinket from the top shelf. It had a big, round ears and a long, thin tail. Is this a mouse? It wasn't the most appropriate decoration for a restaurant, in my opinion, but at least it wasn't a real one. Hehe, cutie. I put the glass mouth back onto the shelf where I found it, then gently ran my finger over it. I didn't know who it belonged to, but I was relieved to see I hadn't broken it. With that crisis averted, I sat down on the counter and turned to Snow White, who was nose deep into a book. The customers, huh? It was just past noon, peak lunchtime hours, and yet the dining area was quiet. No sign of any visitors.
うちはいつもこ
Is this
んな
how
も
it
のだよ。
always be here? Shirayuki didn't bother to look up from his book. I laughed dryly. Shirayuki was a great help to me this morning. In the beginning, anyway. At first, I'd had him do the dishes, but he kept breaking plates. Then, when I told him to pick up trash, he threw everything in his trash bag seemingly at random. Eventually, I realized it'd just be faster for me to do everything, so that's what I did. He told me he'd never had to do chores around the house before. Paired with his feeble appearance, it struck me as the little prince type. Naturally, this begs a question. How on earth did this place ever get clean before I got here? Oh, that reminds me. Where's Cinderella? I'd nearly forgotten our MVP. The entire point of coming here and working here was to get to know him. I was so blown away by the idea of a cafe with no customers that I'd momentarily forgotten all about him.
さあ、遊びに出かけてるんじゃないかな。
Like where?
興味がない。
Okay. I decided to change the subject. So, is that a good book?
別に。
I don't understand why we don't have any customers. I mean, Greta is such a good baker. Maybe they're intimidated? Or maybe it's because the menu's too limited? Do you think I could add to it? Or would I get in trouble?
さあ、やってみたら。
Maybe I shouldn't. Oh, I know. Say, if I made lunch for us, would you eat it?
食べない。
Okay. Would you be opposed to me cooking for everyone?
君の料理の腕は知らないけど、みんながいいならいいんじゃない？
Okay, cool. Lastly, do you think they'd mind if I cleaned their rooms or did their laundry?
俺に聞かれてもわからない。
I feel like I need to earn my keep if I'm going to be living here with all of you. At this, finally, Shirayuki turned to look at me.
君は一応雇われてるのでしょ？それなのにまだ働くの？
Well, the cafe is so slow. I don't feel like I'm really earning my wages, that's all.
そう。なら勝手にすればいいと思う。
Okay then, I will. Shirayuki shot at me a dubious look as I giggled.
何？
I'm just really happy that you're talking to me, especially after last night. I thought maybe I upset you. He looked down on the floor.
君のことは嫌いでも好きでもない。と、
I see.
君の方こそ俺のことを嫌っていると思っていた。
What? Why would I be upset with you?
具体的に言えば、昨日の夜、俺は君を拒否した。
Oh, you mean how you didn't drink it? I wouldn't blame you for being a little skittish. You barely know me after all.
その上、今日も俺は君に迷惑をかけた。役立たずと思われても仕方がない。
You mean when we were cleaning? He didn't respond, but he didn't go back to his book either. You're just clumsy. It's not the end of the world. I appreciate your concern, but trust me, it takes a lot more than that to get on my bad side.
じゃあ、シンデレラ兄さんのことは？
Shirayuki looked directly into my eyes. What about him? I blinked back.
そう。君は彼のことをどう思っている？
Oh, well, I think he's a very generous man. It was my honest opinion, at least thus far.
そんな風に言ったのは君が初めてだ。
Really? Just me?
他人はシンデレラ兄さんのことをこう呼ぶよ。
A heart of ash.
そうだ。綺麗な君は気づかない。灰にまみれ、汚れてしまった人の心なんて。
I paused for a moment. How do you respond to Snow White's evaluation of you? Yeah, say you think I'm pure? I'm sure he has a good heart under all that ash. Honestly, what do you think I'm pure though? What should I do? You think I'm pure? I peered at him.
綺麗だよ。
He responded without hesitation. Aw, thank you. That's so sweet.
君は無垢な純白だ。汚れを知らない。
Gosh, you're gonna make me blush. Thank you. What about Cinderella then? You think he's ash gray? Shirayuki fell silent, and I smiled brightly at him. I like gray actually. It's nice dark color, you know? A perfect blend of black and white. If you think about it, gray is just another word for silver, and silver is a precious metal. Even if he does have a heart of ash like everyone claims, it just proves that he's been through some rough times. He's a survivor. Besides, I can't tell he's not a bad guy. Most people wouldn't hire a stranger off the street, no matter how good their tea was.
君のことをただ服が汚れていたというだけで貧乏人と判断しても
Oh, I don't hold that against him. I did kind of look like a hobo last night. Wait, something felt off about this conversation. His questions had been rather pointed thus far. Almost like he knew precisely how interested I was in Cinderella. Do you know who I am?
君のことは知らないけど兄さんが言うような人ではないことはわかる君の言動や行動汚れる前の服装どれをとっても君はいいところのお嬢さんだ
I smiled sheepishly. Evidently, Shirayuki was a smart cookie. Do you think Gurete figured it out too?
さあね彼は自分の興味の対象でなければそれが何であれ深くは追求しないたちだ
Gotcha. What about you?
君が何者で何があってこんなことをしているのかはわからないけれど
So you'll keep my secret? He looked away. Thank you. You're an angel.
別に優しくもないし優しくした覚えもないよ
You sure about that? Because I feel like you want to help me. I can see it in your eyes.
見た目だけで判断されるのは嫌いだ
Such a shame. You could manipulate the pants off of someone with those looks. Predictably, he scowled.
君って善人面した悪人
That depends. Do I look like a sheep or do I look like a wolf? I smirked mischievously. You don't want to be judged on your appearance, but you'll judge me on mine? Hypocrite much? He looked away again, and the smirk left my face. People are going to judge you on your looks whether you like it or not. That's just a fact of life. I mean, it's all they have to go on at first, you know? Works the same way in the animal kingdom, too. They value each other on the eternal factors like whose wings are bigger and whose mating call sounds better. But when it comes to us humans, there's more to it than that. For example, over time you can often come to appreciate certain traits that you might have put you off at first. The more time you spend with someone, the more your impression of them can change. Because there's more to us than meets the eye.
綺麗事だね
Maybe he is, but I think I can come to understand him eventually, as long as he'll give me a chance. And now here I am, so who knows? Maybe fate has already worked its magic. He fell silent, so I pressed on. You know, I've been wondering, why is it that you brought me inside last night?
ただの気まぐれだよ
With that, he got to his feet. Where are you going?
一人になれるところを探しに
And so he walked out of the dining area without a second glance. Guess I scared him off. I sighed. Frankly, I was worried that my presence was a burden to Cinderella's younger brothers. I just hope we can get along. In the end, not a single customer stopped by that day. Maybe we should do something about it. No, we definitely need to fix it. Meanwhile, I dished out the salad for tonight's dinner. When I told Gurete I wanted to cook for everyone, he said to me,
いいんじゃないですか
and that was that. Permission granted. I still needed to check in with Cinderella, as well as the other Alice who supposedly lived next door to me, but I hadn't seen either of them all day. In fact, I hadn't seen Alice ever. I'd been hoping to introduce myself, but no matter how many times I knocked on the door, no one ever answered. At this point, I wasn't even sure anyone was actually in there. There, all done. With dinner now ready, I went to fetch Gretel. Here you are. Bon appetit. When he arrived at the dinner table, he murmured in surprise.
驚いた。料理得意なんだ。
I don't know about talented. I just like to cook, that's all. The table was lined with sandwiches, salad, and a big pot of stew.
これだけできるのなら、得意と言ってもいいと思いますよ。
Then maybe I should enter a talent show. I knew he only say it to be polite, but it still felt nice to hear. As I was grinning to myself, I realized he was giving me a dismal look. What? I tilted my head curiously, inviting him to speak his mind.
まるで奴隷のようですね。
It was so sudden and so very rude. You think so? I smiled back at him.
料理を作るのも洗濯も掃除も普通は他人のために無償で行いませんから。
But slaves only do it because they have to. I'm doing it because I want to.
ではあなたは誰のためにこんなことを？
Well, I'm essentially doing it for my own benefit, but it indirectly benefits the rest of you too. I guess I do chores for the same reasons you bake. It's fun, and I'm good at it. I winked. Riddle raised his eyebrows and smiled.
あなたは素直な人だ。
Nope, and neither do you. Now eat up before it gets cold.
いただきます。
At last, he began to eat my cooking. Cinderella's little brothers sure are a handful. Say, do you know if Alice is around?
いや、出かけてはいないと思いますよ。
Great, I should tell him dinner is ready.
やめておいた方がいいと思いますけど。
Why's that? At my question, Gretere tilted his head in a show of contemplation.
気になるのなら、実際にお会いしたらいかがです？
It was by all means the obvious solution. I don't think he'll answer the door. I've tried a few times now. I think he's ignoring me.
コツがあります。
Gretere curled his lip in a sinister grin. Well, here I go again. Hello? Alice? Are you there? I knocked on the door. No response. So I tried calling for him again. Hello? Alice, it's me. Alice from next door. After a long pause, I slumped my shoulders in defeat. He won't answer. This was no different from my previous attempts. No matter how many times I knocked or called his name, the person in the room never answered. I took a deep breath. Alice, you freeloading scum! Pay your rent! You dead weight loser! And screamed insult at a total stranger at the top of my lungs. According to Gretere, this was a trick to get Alice to show himself. A moment later, the lock clicked and the door swung open. I straightened my posture and donned a smile. Time to meet this infamous Alice. Hi there! As of last night, I'm your new...
もううるさいんだよ。人は快適安眠ライフを送っていたというのにもかかわらず、どんどんと無遠慮に音を立ててあげく大声で人の悪口か。君は随分といい趣味をしているんだな。全く感心するよ。だいたいノックして1分経過した時点で出る気がないとなぜわからない。今時宅配便ですら1分も待たずに不在票を置いて帰るぞ。
Out walked a guy with blonde hair and blue eyes. Oh right, you're a guy! I already knew this, but somehow it still came as a surprise. In fact, I scarcely even noticed his little tirade.
随分と的外れな反応だな。ああ、そうだ。見ればわかるだろう。僕は男だ。それとも僕が男以外の生物に見えるのか。君の頭がイカれていて、たとえ万が一にそう見えていたとしても、僕は生物学的なオスと同義だ。ちなみに女の子みたいなどというスイーツともの極めてバカバカしいザレ言を述べるのはやめてくれ。可愛いと呼ばれて喜ぶ男などオカマかホモか女装癖がある変態くらいなものだから。
I'm pretty sure Alice is a girl's name though.
だから君は名前だけで判断するのか。考えなしにも程がある。考えることを放棄している。いつの時代にも子供に珍しい名前を付けたがるバカな親は存在する。ジュゲム、パイポ、シューリンガン、グーリンダイ。 ポンポコピー
The
ポンポコ
shame.
マみたいにな。当然性別の混同をさせるような名前など世にありふれている。アキラや光や薫や渚、凛やレイや誠、遥かといった風に、その中でアリスという男がいてもヘッコポピーな名前が流行ってる昨今、何ら不自然ではないだろう。
You're equating Alice to Apple? Out of nowhere, it pinched my cheeks.
空気を読め。それともわざと言ってるのか。
You're the one who said it. I rubbed my cheek, pouting.
わざと。
You're totally doing this on purpose. I knew you. This time, he pinched my other cheek.
で、何の用だ。僕の心地よい眠りをわざわざ妨げるような重大かつ重要な要件があるんだろうな。
I clapped both hands over my cheek defensively. I just wanted to let you know dinner was ready.
おお、それはどうもありがとう。ただ惜しい。実に惜しい。君が老舗旅館の女将のごとく気が回れば、僕はこんな風に気分を害することなく、美味しい料理に舌包みを打ったことだろう。君は夕飯の知らせに来たと言ったが、突然すぎる。君はバカか。突然訪ねて、突然夕飯の支度ができましたと言われて、はい、そうですか、ありがとうございます。もしも僕がルームサービスの存在に気づかず、すでに食事を済ませていたらどうする。空腹に耐えかね、近くの店で安上がりの握り飯とウーロン茶で一服していたらどうする。君はその分の代金を支払ってくれるのか。君が僕の分の食事を取るのか。ふざけるな。今時どこの旅館でも事前に食事の有無を確認するぞ。
Look, I knocked on your door multiple times.
言い訳は見苦しい。
Sorry. I slumped my shoulders.
まあしょうがない。若い女中に使える使えないなどとそんなことで目くじらを立てていては時間の無駄というものだからな。
Cream stew.
実に無難極まりないメニューだな。まあ君に高級レストランさながらの充実した料理を期待するというのも野暮というものか。ではそのままその足で厨房に戻り、僕の分の食事を速やかに用意し、僕の部屋にお届けしてくれ。ちなみにここは外国ではなく日本なので、チップはやらんが構わないな。
Okay, you want me to bring it to you? I can do that.
ほら急げ。1、2、3。
And so, on his count, I raced down the stairs to the kitchen.
ああ、アリスさん、どうでしたか彼は。
He's so weird.
そうでしょうね。
I'm back. Gasping for breath, I held out the tray carrying his dinner.
遅い。348秒もかかったぞ。危うく二度寝しそうになった。
I think 5 minutes is pretty quick, personally.
正確には5分48秒だ。死者誤入すれば6分もかかったことに。
I mean, I could bring it to you faster if you don't mind it spilling everywhere.
君はバカか。そんな見た目の悪い料理など受け取り拒否するに決まっているだろう。見た目も料理のうちだ。
Right.
まあいい。想定以上の使いなさっぷりを発揮する中、シチューに白米という邪道極まりない選択をせずにいたことだけは褒めてやろう。ほら、お前らの好きなツンデレだ。喜べ、俗物。
Thank you?
だいたい甘ったるいシチューにご飯など狂気の沙汰としか思えない。僕は断固としてパンを支持する。僕はパン派でありパン党だ。シチューにはパン、カレーには何という風にな。
I like rice with curry myself.
二大政党の一角だな。やはり君と僕は永遠に分かり合えない運命なのだ。
You mean white rice?
というわけでさらばだ、ご飯派。
And so Alice snatched the tray from my hands and slammed the door in my face. A moment later, the door opened again.
ちなみに
Also,
今後食事を用意するというのならば、毎日決まった時間に部屋の前へ置いておくようだ。 僕は食事のたびに君と顔を合わせたくはないのでな。ちなみに僕の起床時間は朝中だ。よく覚えておけ。
What? This time, he closed the door for good and locked it.
おかえりなさい。随分とやり込められていたようですね。ここまで声が聞こえました。
He's very interesting, isn't he? I chose my words carefully as I spoke.
変わっているイコール面白い人か。あなたは優しい人だ。ろくでなしでもクズでもそれ相応の形容詞があるというのに。
I felt his statement was crossing a line, but smiled awkwardly nonetheless. Is it always like that?
そうですね。こちらが1言ったことに対し10返ってくる。ああ言えばこういう。そういった皮肉屋で偏屈な人で。
Sounds entertaining, to say the least.
気に入ったようで何より。
Grit did his grinned. How long has he lived here anyway?
さあ、気づいた時にはあの部屋に住んでいましたね。
So you don't know that much about him, even though he's a tenant in your house?
この家の主はシンデレラ兄さんですから。兄さんが決めたことに対し僕たちは従うまでです。なので僕はあのアリスという人に関して深くは知らないし、また興味もないんですよ。
I see. Perhaps it was in fact Cinderella who was the weirdest person in the family.
まあでも彼に関わると決めたのはあなただ。責任を持って今後彼の面倒を見てやってください。
任されました。
ごちそうさま。おいしい。
Grit got to his feet, leaving his empty plate on the table. You're very welcome. Oh yeah, do you have any favorite dishes in particular?
作ってくれるんですか？
If I can, sure.
じゃあ甘いものがいいな。糖は頭の回転を良くさせるから。
Anything sweet. Okay, I'll think of something.
ほどほどに期待してます。
After Grit left, I patiently waited for Cinderella to come home before I ate. Hours ticked by until dinner time had long since passed. He sure is out late now tonight. My stomach rumbled for the umpteenth time. I clutched my abdomen. I glanced over at the stew and debated reheating the stew, now it was almost certainly ice cold. No, I should wait for Cinderella. I shook my head, fighting the urge to sate my own needs. All this time, I waited specifically so I could have dinner with Cinderella. If I ate without him, it would mean this hours-long investment was all in vain. As I wrestled with myself, in walked the man himself. Welcome home, Cinderella. Would you like dinner? I ran over to him with a smile.
食ってきたからいい。
Listen, I was wondering, would you mind if I cooked and cleaned for everyone?
じゃあ任せる。給金はその分上乗せすればいい。
Oh, no, I don't need more money. But before I could even finish my sentence, he left the room without a second glance. What am I gonna do with the rest of the stew? As I mumbled sadly to myself, my stomach squeaked at me. It was kind of cute, actually. Us sad girls still gotta eat. Late that night.
くそ。変な時間に食ったせいで今頃腹が減ってきやがった。なんか食べるもんはねえかなと。お、結構あるじゃんか。サラミサラミっと。あ？鍋？なんだこれ。シチュー？そういやあ
That
の女
chick.
食事がどうとか言ってたな。鍋ごと冷やしやがったのか。ふん。
Yeah, you can
Umaijanaika.
recognize my skills, bro. Oh, good morning, Cinderella.
おはよう兄さん。
ああ、はよ。
Cinderella walked in right as I was preparing breakfast. He looked grumpy. Maybe he wasn't a morning person. I figured to walk out again, but instead he plopped himself down in a chair and stared at me. What's up? I looked back at him curiously.
何してんだ
Wait, what?
俺の分は
He tapped his finger on the table. Then he glanced pointedly at Grete's plate. This could only mean one thing. You want me to cook for you?
だから座ったんじゃねえか
Oh, okay, coming right up. And so I launched into cooking at the speed of light. A few minutes later, I plated a very fluffy omelette along with a salami and a cheese croissant sandwich. To keep things healthy and add a splash of color, I dished him some fruit along with it.
結構趣味がいいじゃね
I had a feeling this would suit your preference. Oh, but if you'd rather have Japanese food, I can make some fried fish and miso soup instead. Currently, I was heating up some fresh onion soup to go along with it.
えか貧乏臭いから嫌だ
The croissant sandwich he was eating was actually cheaper than what I suggested, but I decided to keep it to myself.
あんたは食べないのか
Oh, I'll just eat the leftover stew from last night. Cinderella munched on his croissant sandwich, sounding altogether disinterested. I watched him for a moment, then I decided to ask him something that had been on my mind. You know, it's funny. I could have sworn there was a ton of stew left over, but come this morning I found there was only enough for one more serving. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you? Instantly, he froze.
ああそりゃあれだ
Uh-huh.
あんたの気のせいなんじゃねえの
Gaslighting at
Sorry,
its
Carl.
finest.
いわゆる妖精の仕業ってやつだな
Oh, of course, a fairy. He probably snuck in while I was sleeping and helped himself. I clapped my hands together.
そうそう
He gave a non-committal grunt.
へえ、それは不思議ですね。随分と図体のでかい妖精がいたもんです。
Gotta snitch on him
と
like
ころ
that.
で、シンデレラ兄さん、昨晩厨房に行くのを見ましたが、何しに行ったんですか？
As Grete cut in, Cinderella fell silent. I'll tease him. You ate some, didn't you?
ああそうだ食べたい悪いか
And so angrily, and so he angrily admitted to his crime. Hehe. Annoyed, Cinderella averted his gaze. At this rate, he was likely to storm off somewhere. Okay, I gotta go take some up to Alice's room. Once you've eaten, I'll make you something to drink. I hastily took the hint and made myself scarce.
いってらっしゃい。
Ohio, Alice. I called out to him from the other side of the door, but he didn't respond. Granted, it was quite possible he was still asleep. Why? Because it was 9 a.m. and he had told me he woke up every morning at 10. Now you might be wondering, why not arrive at 10 a.m. like he asked? And the answer is quite simple. 10 a.m. was when the cafe opened per business. Breakfast is ready. I leave it here for you. Unwilling to waste any more time, I dragged my bedside table out into the hall and set the tray onto it. When I returned to the kitchen, Grete was rinsing his dirty dishes off in the sink. Oh, I can take care of that.
これくらいはやりますよ。
Well, okay. Guess I'll take you up on that. Thanks, I appreciate it. I glanced over at Cinderella to find him nearly done with his own breakfast. In that case, I'll make us a little something to drink. How about some coffee? We also have black tea and green tea.
コーヒーでいい
Espresso or cafe au lait?
じゃあカフェオレ
What about you, Grete?
僕もカフェオレで。
Pinching the hem of my dress, I curtsied gracefully. Kashikomarimashita. Humming to myself, I clicked the switch on the siphon coffee maker. Once the water began to boil, the steam rose to the top, mixing with the coffee grounds to begin the brewing process. Perfect! While I waited for the coffee to brew, I bustled around the dining area to get the milk and utensils ready.
なあ、グレーテル。
何ですか？
ここは店か？
店ですね。
The next thing I knew, Cinderella and Gretel were certainly standing behind me.
あんた、コーヒーサイフォンの使い方なんて知ってたのか？
This is actually my favorite way to make coffee. It's fun to watch the steam rise to the top, you know? It's kind of like magic. And when it's all done, it smells amazing.
はあ。普段使わねえからわかんねえな。
Then what's the point of having one?
ただのインテリアだ。雰囲気作りだよ。
So it's both functional and aesthetics. That's so smart. But Cinderella didn't return my smile. But
あんたは天然なのか嫌味なのか。
I guess I'm a dead stun. I put my index finger to my chin and tilted my head in a cutesy display.
わかってんなら天然じゃねえよ。
Oh, sorry. But I'm not being sarcastic. Honest.
あってたまるか。
Oh, the coffee's nearly ready now. Go on and have a seat over there. At my suggestion, Cinderella fell silent and sat down.
兄さん、彼女は一筋縄ではいかない性分のようです。兄さんのような人ではまず太刀打ちできない。
Indeed.
甘く見てると簡単に籠絡されますよ。
するかよ。
20 minutes later. There you go. I set 2 cups of coffee on the counter.
いい匂いだ。
本当にね。
I poured a cup for myself and joined them at the counter.
そういや、あんたの名前は何だ？
It was quite possibly the world's most belated question.
雇い主のくせにそんなことも知らなかったんですか？
こいつが名乗らねえからよ。
I wanted to tell him you didn't let me introduce myself, but I held my tongue. I'm Alice.
何アリスだよ。
Oh, my last name? Caught off guard, I couldn't help but stammer. Well, it's... Oh god, what do I do now? I knew I needed to give him something, anything, but nothing sprang into my mind. As I hesitated,
まあいいや。俺的にはどうでもいいし。
he shrugged. It was rather sudden about face, considering he was the one who asked in the first place.
個人事業主としては大いに問題ある発言ですね。
第一、契約書も交わしてねえし。
違法じゃないですか。
法人じゃねえから大丈夫だろ。
危ない橋渡りすぎていつか捕まりますよ。ただでさえも悪名高いあなたの弟だということで被害を被っているのに身内が犯罪者だなんて耐えられない。
Don't worry, Greta. If they try to arrest him, I'll just say I'm a tenant doing chores. I gave him a thumbs up.
ああ、じゃあその体でよろしくお願いいたします。
And so the pact of perjury was sealed.
おいこら、俺が捕まるの前提で話を進めんな。
We're just joking around, right, Greta?
僕は本気ですけどね。
His smile didn't reach his eyes. Cinderella took a big, awkward sip of his coffee. Oh yeah, that reminds me. Cinderella, I wanted to talk to you about the cafe.
店？おう、そういや昨日はどうだった？
We didn't get a single customer.
ま、いつものことだね。
不良債権だな。まあいい。で、店がどうだって？
I think we need to fix this.
ああ、そりゃまあ良くないわな。で、話は終わりか。
I blinked at him. Look, you're trying to run a business, right? Don't you think you need to start bringing in some customers?
別にいいよ。客が来ても来なくてもそんなに変わらない。
Then why did you hire me?
そういやなんでだろうな。その日のノリっていうか、金持ちはな、貧乏人と違って心にも時間にもゆとりがあるんだよ。
Oh, I I get it. I didn't get it actually, but I nodded anyways. If he hired a total stranger purely on a whim, then I was right. It was by far the weirdest person in this family.
それに客が来なくともここの地価は上がり続けている。いざとなったら店の設備ごと高値で売り払って売買よ。
You'd sell off your own cafe?
ああ、一番の高値がついた頃にはな。
Right. I couldn't think of anything more pertinent to say. Instead, I wondered intently how he would react if he found out I was his fairly wealthy prospective fiance.
そもそも客が入らねえんだから仕入れも何もねえだろ。諸経費がかからないなら売り上げがなくてもあまり差はねえよ。
Then why call this a cafe at all?
さあな、こっちの感覚としては家買ってその家に住んでるってだけだ。
I guess not. So then, why even try to keep the cafe open in the first place?
もともとこの土地に目をつけて転売するつもりで購入したんだよ。喫茶店経営はその場のノリだノリと何度も言うが、あんたと違って俺は金に困ってねえんだよ。ただそうだな、あんたの作る料理はうまいし、もしかするかもな。
Just then, he turned to look at me. Yes?
あんた面白いことが好きか？
In real life, no? I guess. Yes, absolutely, yes. I raised my hand in a pick me gesture.
俺は楽しいことが好きだ。新しいものも珍しいものも大好きだ。
So you're the curious type, I take it? My image of Cinderella continued to shift from an upper-class snob to a good Samaritan to an inquisitive oddball.
よーし、決めた。
Suddenly, he slapped his tie.
今日からこの店をこの国一番の喫茶店にするぞ。
は？突然何言ってるんですか？
おいアリス、
Yes? I straightened my posture.
あんたが好きにやれよ。メニューを増やすなりなんなり思うようにやれ。俺が金を出してやる。で、それを元手にして俺をうならせるほど金を稼ぎ出して底辺からのし上がってこい。
We decided to fetch Shirayuki and give him an overview of our new goal.
店の経営
Yep.
で、俺に何かいい案がないか？
Yep.
特にない。以上。
He turned on his heel, but I quickly grabbed him by the arm. Wait, please don't go! He reluctantly turned back, a scowl plastered on his face.
白雪、どうせお前も暇だろ。たまには手伝え。
俺がいても何の役にも立たないよ。
That's not true. You know what they say, two heads are better than one.
なら規定数は満たしてる。
He was referring to his brothers, of course.
白雪兄さん、諦めた方がいいですよ。この人のいつもの気まぐれです。
Kureta adored his thumb at Cinderella. Shirayuki's scowl deepened, and Cinderella cleared his throat accordingly.
おい、お前ら。
シンデレラ兄さんですね。
お前らをここに置いてやってんのは誰だ？そうだ。だったら誰に従うべきなのか理解できるな。かわいい弟たち。
Finally, Shirayuki plopped down into a chair as though he'd resigned himself from the worst. In contrast, with Cinderella's smile, the younger guys both looked disgruntled. Sorry for dragging you to this.
別に余計なことをなんて思ってませんよ。
Oh, he's pissed alright.
まあ、いいです。とりあえず話し合いとやらをして、さっさと結論を出しましょう。
He steepled his fingers together.
議題は どうしたらこの店にお客が訪れるようになるかでいいですね。はい。じゃあまずは時計回りにアリスさんから意見どうぞ。
My heart skipped a beat in surprise. Me? Okay, let's see. Personally, I think maybe this place is a bit too intimidating for the average customer.
この店は入りにくい雰囲気だから人が来ないの？
Exactly. I mean, there's no sign out front. There's hardly a menu. Most people probably don't even realize this is a cafe at all. It was a pretty valid point, considering I was essentially flying by the seat of my pants here.
ああ、店の看板は確かあったはずだぞ。
Cinderella squinted at me dubiously. Well, if you did, it's not there now. I squinted back. I knew I wasn't misremembering things. After all, the lack of signage had caught my attention the very first night I arrived.
そんなはずはねえよ。おいグレーテル、看板はどうした？
僕は知りませんよ。
じゃあ白雪。
Snow White looked at him blankly.
以前兄さんが自分でどかして俺に押し付けたよね。
ああ、そういや店でパーティーするのにダセえからって。お前、あの後どうしたんだよ。
捨てた。は
捨てたって？
あ、嘘だよ。物置にしまってある。
店の外に出せよ。何のための看板だよ。
He had a point. Meanwhile, I was starting to understand exactly how a stylish cafe in the heart of downtown came to have zero customers.
とりあえず問題点は一つ解決したと。他に何かありませんか？
Pick me! I raised my hand.
アリスさん。
You've had at least one or two customers since the cafe's been open, right? So why haven't they been back?
そうですね。まあ何人か来てくださいましたよ。
So what made them stop coming?
さあ。
Coretta shrugged his shoulders. What do you mean? It's literally your job to know these things.
ホールは白雪兄さんが担当してますからね。
Naturally, everyone turned to look at Shirayuki. I think maybe the customer service was a teensy bit lacking in hospitality? This was currently our biggest issue, and I made sure to soften my statement as much as possible.
ま、愛想の悪い店員がいると、どんなうまい料理でももう二度と行くかって気にはさせられるわな。おい、聞いてんのか？お前のことだよ、白雪。
And Cinderella promptly ruined all my effort to be discreet. Cinderella! I lightly pinched his cheek.
なんだよ。
The cornerstone of great customer service is a great smile. I figured you could use some practice.
おい、俺を誰だと思ってるんだ？言ってみろ！
My boss. And so he helped me practice right back.
ま、冗談はさておき。とりあえず、うちの接客には問題があるということですが。はい。
Once again, everyone looked at Shirayuki.
おい、白雪。ちょっと笑ってみろよ。
But Shirayuki turned away. Guess that's a no.
おい、あんたが笑ってみせろ。試しにちょっと見せてやれ。
Who, me? Sure. I wasn't expecting Cinderella to request me directly. Now to put my most winning grin and blow them all away. How's this? I donned my best smile.
まあ多めに見て12点ってところじゃないですか。
This was the part where they all were supposed to blush, but instead they stared at me dismally. That's out of 50 points total, right?
100点満点に決まってるだろうが。
Your rating system sucks. I slapped my shoulders. I tried to make them weaken the knees, and what did I get? A bunch of ducat.
ま、無理強いはよくねえよな。
じゃあとりあえず白雪兄さんには引き続きこのままでいてもらうということで。
In contrast to their treatments of me, they were more than happy to cuddle Snow White. Well, something has to give. Just then, it hit me. Oh, I know. Why don't we have Red cover the dining area? You're really friendly looking, so I'm sure you'll be a hit with all the girls.
何か今あなたの言葉に引っかかりを覚えましたが
Nah, you're reading too much into it. I laughed and waved a hand dismissively.
僕がホールに出ても構いませんがそれだと調理側の人間がいなくなりますよ
Alright, what about you, Cinderella?
はあおいおい俺はオーナーだ金を出すのが役目であって
Plenty of business owners help run their businesses. I wasn't backing down from this one.
じゃあこれからはシンデレラ兄さんも店で働くということで誰か反対意見はありますか
あるに決まってんだろうがなんでこの俺が
俺は意味なし。
Sounds good to me. Shirayuki and I immediately agreed, and Gareteri soon followed suit.
僕も異議なしということで多数決の結果3対1でシンデレラ兄さんは今後店で働くということに決定しました
Yay! The three of us applauded, happy to finally be on the same page for once.
おいおいおいおい
Cinderella scowled at us as I shot him an encouraging thumbs up. Smile, Cinderella. Show us those pearly whites, or else your grumpy scowl will scare all the customers away.
黙れ10点
Wow, that really hurts my feelings. Anyway, don't worry, Cinderella. I'll be there to help you every step of the way. He turned away, sulking. Evidently, he'd lost the will to fight me on this.
その他に誰か意見はできれば建設的な意見で
はい。
Snow White raised his hand.
珍しいな
では白雪兄さんどうぞ
こうして話をしていても拉致が開かない。もともと俺たちは店の経営やそもそも金銭的なことに対して執着がない。だけどそれは俺たちに限ったことで他はそうじゃない。
So what you're saying is, we should be using these other cafes as a reference point? Shirayuki nodded his assent at my interpretation of his statement.
それはいいですね現場の声からプロセス改善に取り組むということですか
貧乏人から学べってことだな
Well, that's true. Who says they're all plebs? What if they're spoiled layabouts like you? Ugh, who even cares?
視察だよ。俺とグレーテルはここに残って待ってるから兄さんたちが行ってきて。
立ちって
Cinderella and I exchanged a glance.
しょうがねえなそうとなれば今から行くぞ
He grabbed my arm and got to his feet. Wait, what? What about the cafe?
こいつらが適当にやるだろ
What? Hey, whoa, slow down! And so Cinderella dragged me off, his two younger brothers waving after us.
いってらっしゃい
ごゆっくり。
I feel like they were looking for an excuse to get rid of us.
気がするじゃなくてそうなんだろ
You could tell?
まあなあいつらは基本やる気ない愛想がない働く気がないのないない尽くしだからな
Boy, I've got my work cut out for me.
だいたい朝飯食ったばかり他のもん食えねえっての
Good point. So, where to first? Cinderella was leading the way, but I had no idea where exactly he was taking me.
いいから俺に黙ってついてこい
What is this, the 1950s? He ignored me and started walking faster. Wait, Cinderella, wait for me! So, there we were, seated in a well-known looking-glass restaurant. Cinderella? I peered at him from behind my menu.
なんだ
Cinderella stared back, resting one elbow on the table. This is a restaurant, right?
ああそうだないわゆるレストランだ
But you just said you couldn't eat anymore. So what are we doing here?
何敵情視察に決まってんだろ
I mean, yes. I looked around the room. It was the middle of the day, yet we were the only customers. As I carefully observed our surroundings, I couldn't help but wonder if maybe we wouldn't have been better off choosing a slightly more popular place for our recognition. The restaurant had a spacious dining area with counter seats in addition to the four-person tables. The interior design had a muted, modern feel to it, pretty classy. The menu was all French cuisine, exotic but not too foreign. It all made me all the more curious why the place wasn't more popular. Maybe the location was the biggest factor then. The restaurant was situated in an alley with minimal foot traffic and no parking lot. Cinderella raised his hand, and the waiter promptly came over, wearing his best smile.
ご注文をお伺いしてよろしいでしょうか。
とりあえず
We'll take
こ
one.
こにあるメニュー上から下
How
ま
are we
で全
gonna
部
eat
持って
that? What? I was certain I must have heard wrong. Surely he hadn't said that.
聞こえなかったのか。この店にある品全部持ってこいって言ってんだよ。
Apparently I had heard correctly.
こちらにあるすべてのメニューでよろしいのでしょうか。
The poor waiter could scarcely believe it. Not that I blamed him. Even I was having trouble believing it, and I was sitting at the table. But Cinderella didn't seem to appreciate the waiter's bewilderment. He scoffed coldly.
俺の言葉が信じられねえってのか。なら先払いしてやるよ。
With that, he pulled out a wad of cash and tossed it down on the table.
ほら、これで文句ねえだろ。いいからしのごの言わずに作って持ってこいよ。
Whoa, hold the phone. I couldn't begin to process what he had just done.
はい。かしこまりました。
The waiter quickly recovered from his shock. After a deep bow, he hurried off into the back. Cinderella! I stared at him, slack-jawed.
なんだよ、うっせえな。
You are planning to eat all of that, right?
もちろん全部食べないつもり。
Then why did you order so much?
どうしてって敵情視察って言ってんだろ。日本語わかるか？ Do you understand?
わかりますよ. But you said you couldn't eat another bite after the breakfast we had.
まあな。
And yet you're going to order the whole menu?
ああ、そうだ。
My jaw dropped even further. Surely you could have just asked him to recommend his favorites.
んなちまちました頼み方で視察になるかよ。
Maybe you're right about that. I glanced over at the kitchen. The chef must have heard the story from the waiter because he bowed politely to us. If we don't eat it, it'll all get tossed out, won't it?
そうなんじゃねえの。
In response to his wastefulness, I can't say I approve of this, Cinderella. I decided to tell him the hard truth.
こういったことってなんだよ。
I'm referring to how wasteful you're being.
うん。
Cinderella gave me a non-committal grunt in reply. In order how disrespectful he was acting, I kept going. Cinderella, there are so many people in this world who go hungry every day.
いるな。だからなんだ。
Doesn't that make you feel guilty for doing this?
ないね。
I stared back, aghast. I wasn't hungry. I wasn't disappointed. I was just blown away by his utter lack of hesitation.
あのさ、
What?
俺がここで何か我慢したところで、その分がそいつらに渡るのか。俺が一食抜いたところで、その一食が貧しいやつのもとへ行くと思うのか。
Well, no. I fell silent as Cinderella continued.
渡らないだろ。渡るわけないんだよ。ここは施設でも戦場でもねえ。俺が頼まなかったところで、他のやつが頼めば同じことだし、誰も頼まなかったら腐って廃棄されるだけだろ。金という対価を支払って物品を受け取る。それがこの世の仕組みだ。アホなこと言ってんじゃねえよ。
His argument was perfectly sound. There was a lot I wanted to say at the moment, but I couldn't find the words. He stared at me as I glared back at him.
ありがとうございました。
次はどこ行くか。
My stomach hurts. I clutched my overfull belly.
無理して食うからだ。
I couldn't help it. I felt so bad for the restaurant. We ended up leaving most of the food completely untouched. For politeness' sake, I wanted to try to eat as much as possible, but I had to give up after my fifth plate.
ま、お前 は作る側の人間だしな。
I just feel guilty, that's all.
そんなの時期にどうでもよくなるぞ。なんせ敵情視察はまだまだ始まった。
I looked up at him. You're going to keep doing this?
ああそうだ。
Either way, he was a tyrant, or just incredibly foolish. Fine, I'll go with you. At this point, I was in a to hell with it sort of mood.
それでいいんだよ。あんたはいちいち考えすぎだ。
That's the first time anyone said that to me.
俺も初めて言ったからな。
Cinderella glanced at me out of the corner of his eye and chuckled.
おいやつら行こう。
Wow! A group of mischievous boys bumped into me as they ran past, knocking me off balance.
とあっぶねえな。
Cinderella grabbed my arm to stop me from falling.
おいガキ気をつけろ。
Traffic kids. Normally, I would have been all aflutter about this act of kindness, but a jerking movement jostled the contents of my stomach, and I clapped my hand over my mouth.
吐くか。
He indicated the sidewalk to go to in a go-ahead gesture. God, no, anything but that.
ああ出花をくじかれた気分だ。
Sorry.
まあいい。気分が良くなったらまた町に戻るぞ。
Okay. Seeing as I was under the weather, Cinderella had brought me here to the Looking Glass Lake. I really liked this place. Here it was quiet, and the air was crisp and clean. I felt healed in body and mind.
少しは黙ってろ。気分が悪いんじゃねえのかよ。
I was hoping maybe a little conversation would help burn some calories. I rubbed my swollen belly.
動け。
That's the thing. I feel worse if I move.
ただの怠けもんじゃねえか。デブになるぞ。
Oi, oi.
それは豚だ。ってどっちも同じ意味か。たく。
Hehe. What do you do most days, anyways?
何をしているって何をだ。
I mean, exactly what I said. How do you normally spend your days?
なんでだよ。
Well, I'm a tiny bit curious about your life. About you.
告白かよ。
Cinderella snorted, but I didn't crack a smile. Maybe I am.
はあ残念だったな。この俺が魅力的なのはよーくわかるが、俺にとってあんたは興味の対象外だ。料理の腕は買ってやるがな。
It's not a romantic thing. I just genuinely want to know more about you.
わけがわかんねえな。知ってどうするんだよ。
I don't know. I don't know anymore.
なんだそりゃ。
Cinderella stared at me dubiously. No surprise there, of course. Someone told me they wanted to know more about me out of the blue like that. I'd assumed they were trying to recruit me into a cult. Fortunately, there were no cults involved here. Cinderella. I turned back to face him, straightening my posture.
なんだ。
I know we've only just met, but at the very least, I want to understand you as a person. I want to get to know you. It was my extremely roundabout way of asking him to talk more about himself. A moment of silence passed, and then, finally,
だから俺に語れってのか。
he took the hint. Yeah. I smiled brightly.
ばっかじゃねえのか。そう言われてホイホイ他人に語るわけねえだろうが。あんたは俺の友人か兄弟か。違うだろ。あんたと俺は他人だ。他人に語ることなんて何もねえよ。
Sometimes being strangers makes it easier to talk.
全く関係のない二度と会うこともないだろう赤の他人ならな。
Then, what do I have to do? Tell me. I leaned in, and Cinderella reflexively leaned back.
知るか。自分で考えろ。
I pouted. At this point, The only option was to use my trump card. Are we really strangers if you've seen it all?
はあ何をだよ。
Are you trying to play dumb?
だから何を
My naked body. Cinderella promptly choked on his own spit. Are you okay? I rubbed his back as he coughed. Okay, good. So anyways, you saw me naked on my first night at the cafe, remember? I jumped right back into my previous conversation without a moment's delay. Don't try to tell me you forgot!
まあそういうこともあったかもしれねえな。
Cinderella? I smiled coldly.
不可抗力だ。別に見たくて見たんじゃねえよ。
Here we go with the excuses. Hehe, I can tell he's flustered. Are you trying to say I'm ugly? I pouted and began to fake cry.
わかりやすい嘘ついてるんじゃねえ。
Dang it, busted. I stuck up my tongue.
だいたいなんで今さら蒸し返すんだよ。気にしてたんならその時言えばよかっただろ。
Because we'd only just met. I didn't want to make things awkward between us, so I tried my best to forget it.
そのまま忘れちまえ。
I can't. No girl on earth can just shrug off some guy seeing her naked. How am I supposed to get married now? And you never even apologized for it. So now it's my bargaining chip. Cinderella's cheek twitched.
俺を脅すのか。いい度胸じゃねえか。いくら欲しいんだよ。
I'm not going to accept payment for showing you my body. I'm not a prostitute. So I'd like you to compensate me in a different way. Will you pay the price for your crime? Well, I looked firmly into his eye as I spoke.
おお。
Great! No take backsies. Now let's go. I got to my feet, grabbed his arm, and yanked him up with me. This time, it's my turn. I guess this is where we're gonna end it today. And keep the suspense. Let's see. I'm gonna save this. Save. Do-do-do. Let's skip this and see Quetta. And here we are. So today we had a great time reading this interesting story. I hope you had a great time if you came by. Thank you for spending some time with me. We'll keep going. Maybe tomorrow, maybe another day. We shall see how it goes. I am going to release my first ever cover in a few days. So if you're interested, please give it a check. It will be on my YouTube and on, I don't know, my Twitch maybe. We'll see. Well, thank you everyone. Bye-bye.